should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What's happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And on the phone line is comedian Mike Baldwin, who you can see all this weekend at Side Splitters Comedy Club in Tampa Bay. He is on Hoppe Hour. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up? Do I talk now?
Hell yeah, dude. I'm really pumped to get you on, man. I was watching your comedy. You come off like a guy that would be fun to get a beer with at the bar. Like you're just being yourself when you're doing comedy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I feel like everybody is kind of like that as far as their comedy goes. Like everybody's kind of just a part of themselves, you know?
Do you ever feel, though, that some comedians try to put on this crazy persona to overcompensate, and sometimes they're not being genuine?
Well, I mean, like, even when they're that crazy persona, that's still them.
Yeah.
Like, they're still being a part of themselves. It just so happens that, like, people don't like that part of themselves. But that's why comedy's fun, because it takes all kinds, you know? And it's that, like, delusion and stuff that's involved in comedy of, like, did I do well? Like, yeah, I think I did pretty well. Like, whether you actually did or not, you know?
How do you judge how you did after a show? Are you a guy that's often tough on yourself, or do you give yourself a break often?
I mean, any comedian who's been doing it for a little while, like, they know what it feels like to do their best, you know, when like every single joke hits and you just have like that perfect night where everybody's laughing and everybody's having a good time and like you sell the perfect amount of merchandise afterwards and all of that stuff together. And then it's like anything below that is just, it's like, yeah, no, that was good, but there's always a but involved somewhere in almost every show that I do. I'm like, yeah, no, I did great and, like, got a standing ovation at the end. But did you see that one guy 3 rows back that had his arms crossed? Like, what was his problem?
How often are you reading the crowd while you're doing the show to try and see who is laughing? Does that ever mess with your mind when you do that?
No, I mean, like, it's like you can only see a small percentage of the crowd anyway because there's lights and stuff in your eyes. So, I mean, on any given night, there's only, like, maybe 10 or 15 faces that you can really like focus on the entire time that you're up there. And so all it takes is one guy like rolling his eyes or doing something weird where you're like, God damn it. Like, what's that guy's problem? Like, what am I doing to upset that guy?
Now, how do you deal with people that often use their smartphones or want to film your act? Do you call them out when they're doing that?
I mean, it just depends. There's no, you know, I don't know, honestly, like, it's because there's no right answer to anything in comedy. That's a fun thing about it is people are like, so what do you do? Like you can never wear shorts. And it's like, well, I mean, that's a basic rule, but that doesn't mean that there's nobody that's ever worn shorts that did comedy, you know, like there's no correct answers to any of the things that you're going to ask.
How do you know when you're doing a good show? Like, how do you have trust in yourself?
I don't know, man. It's just like, it's like any other job. It's like asking the guy at Best Buy, like, how do you know, like, what the best computer is? And it's like, well, I've worked here long enough. Like, I know how to read the numbers and stuff. And it's like, this one is just better than that one. Like, you can just tell when a joke hits and when a lot of people laugh. All it takes is a few things to screw stuff up, though. You know, all it takes is one lady going, ooh, or like one guy going, one dude going, psh, like close enough to the microphone that other people can hear it. And like that can throw off your whole show, you know? Or one table in the front row talking to each other. Like, I mean, there's a million different ways that a show can go great and that it can go terribly. Because even, that's what you were asking, like how you deal with particular things or whatever. Like, like a good example is like bachelorette parties, like sometimes it totally works to like make fun of the bachelorette and make fun of the bachelorette party and like the whole crowd loves it and stuff. But other times, I mean, you might say something to the bachelorette party and the whole crowd goes, ooh. And you're like, God, what's everybody's problem? All right, well, guess I'm not talking to the bachelorette party. Like, you just never know how a crowd's going to react. That's why comedy's fun, because it's different every single night. Even though we're pretty much saying the same words, more or less. I mean, I might do 5 or 10 minutes that are different each night, but it just depends on the crowd, But more or less, I'm doing the same shit over and over again, and, like, it's different. It's a different reaction every night, and I never know, like, what words they're going to laugh at exactly or, like, what part of the jokes. Some jokes, like, will have parts of the setup that will get full-blown laughs during some shows, and other shows, like, they'll just sit silently and stare at me until I get to the punchline, and then they'll laugh. Or sometimes they won't even laugh then. You never know,
How often are you coming up with new comedy? Like, are you a guy where when you're at the airport, you like to observe things since you travel a lot? Like, is there a part of you that's always trying to come up with new material?
I mean, I feel like now I'm not trying to come up with material as much anymore, as much as just kind of going with the flow,
Yeah.
Like I've got, material that works on stage that I like to flip around here and there, and some nights, like you've heard the phrase like phone it in, some nights it's like it's one of those crowds where you're like, all right, I just gotta just tell my jokes and just get the fuck out of here, because like they're not going to give me any leeway on anything. And then other nights you have, I mean, I've had shows where I'll get off stage and I'm like, wow, I don't think I did one joke the whole time I was up there, because, like that guy yelled something out and then the birthday girl yelled something out and then like there was that fight in the back and then the other thing happened, and like you end up entertaining people for an entire set without doing any of your material. And those are the nights that you're like, wow, man, I need to like figure out a way to say all that shit that I said without all the stuff that happened leading to me saying that happening. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes perfect sense, because what I want to ask you is, what part of America does the craziness usually happen at your comedy shows? Like, what exact cities does this go down in?
Oh God, that's like saying, like, what do I say to a girl to make her blow me on the first date? It's like it's a different answer for every situation, Like I've seen fist fights at comedy shows probably 4 times, and they were all in different cities. I've had standing ovations probably 5 times in my career, and I think they were all in completely different cities. Like I've gotten blown on the road several times, and they were all from different kinds of girls. Like you never know what is going to lead to what. That's why we still do it, because we crave that. Comedy is like a drug. Comedy is like buying a bag of heroin from like a shady guy on the corner. It's like I love heroin, but like, is this going to be good, or like, am I going to end up having a bad time? It's like, I don't care. I got to have it. Like, I'm going to do it regardless. And let's just hope that I got some good shit this time.
What is your go-to move to talk to women after the shows? Like, are they coming up to you because you were the center of attention for an hour, or do you often have to put in more work to intrigue them?
Well, I have a girlfriend now, so I try to and that's the thing, is like, even when I'm single, like a majority of the people that are coming up to you after the show are like girls that are already on dates, or like girls that are with their boyfriends or husbands, or it's very rarely like a bunch of chicks like, let's go out and see some comedy and like find some dudes or whatever. Like, that's very rare in comedy. Not that it doesn't ever happen, but more or less comedy's like a date night, So you're already in the hole right there. But like as far as girls coming up to you and stuff, I mean, yeah, it happens. It's just you got to be smooth. It doesn't. Comedy's just like an in. It's an icebreaker. You still got to do whatever after that. You can't just whip your dick out and be like, "All right, are you ready?" Like, but in some towns maybe you can. And well, let me rephrase that. On some nights maybe you could. Like, but it's a numbers game too. It's like anything else. But I bet if you go to 100 different comedy shows and do well and then whip your dick out at the end of every single one of them, I bet at least once a girl will come up to you and put it in her mouth. But I bet you'll be arrested before that.
You seem like a guy that is a big fan of blowjobs. Like some dudes would be like, yeah, I banged her, or yeah, I got a hand job. It seems like your ultimate goal whenever you're with a woman is getting blown, you know?
That's really not true at all. I feel like that's just it's a nicer way of saying like hooking up or whatever, you know. It's like when I was in 6th grade, it was like, we're going out, you know, and my parents would always say, where are you going? And it's like, you don't even understand, Mom. We're not going anywhere, but we're just going out. Like, we're like boyfriend and girlfriend. We're going out. Like, that's what it means. And then, you know, it turned into like, did you guys make out last night? And that, you know, because it becomes too long to be like, so did you guys kiss? And then like, did you touch her boob? And like, you laid in a bed together. And so it's just like, did you have fun? It's like, yeah, I had fun. It's like, did she blow you? It's like, yeah, she did. And it's like, all right, high five, good job. Like, you don't need to say anything else because that's like the ultimate thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's very weird how sex is becoming more prominent and it's becoming more open. To me, it's because you can get porn wherever you want. So I feel like it's being watched at an all-time high, you know?
Yeah, well, it's like, I feel like it's the same as, you know, murders and child abductors and all that stuff. It's like I don't think people are jerking off any more than they did in history. I think just the statistics are there more now. So it's like this many people watched porn yesterday, and it's like, oh God, that's like all of America. Are you telling me all of America jerked off yesterday? It's like, yeah, probably.
Well, you know what's weird, too, is when you go on the porn sites and you see what's the most viewed porn, you realize how creepy America is because it's like teen just turns 18 or mom bangs son. And you go, there's people out there that are turned on by that concept. That's what creeps me out is when you see the most viewed videos and you're like, Jesus Christ, there's a lot of perverts out there.
Well, I mean, everybody's a pervert, but it's like, you know, that's why there's laws that are like, hey, don't fuck 15-year-olds. Because guys are like, hey, can we fuck 15-year-olds? And it's like, no. Like, that, because for a long time it was just like, hey, don't fuck little kids. Like, that's gross. And everybody's like, yeah, no, of course not. And then, like, a few guys, like, fucked a little kid. And it's like, all right, like, let's make some rules, you know. And so then they ruined it for the rest of everybody. Because it's like I'm attracted to what I was attracted to when I first started getting laid, and that was chicks in high school. Like, because I was in high school, you know? So, like, when I see a girl that reminds me of a girl that I first did sex stuff with, I'm going to be like, oh, God. Like, but then there's, like, laws and shit that are like, no, you can't want to fuck her. Like, even though she looks exactly like the girl that you hooked up with for the first time, when you were first having sex, like you can't like that anymore. You got to like mature older women now. And it's like, so then guys, that's why guys look that stuff up. They're like, all right, just 18 today. Like I want it filmed at 12:01 a.m. I want the youngest possible chick and I want her to look younger. She can be 18, but I don't want one of those like 25-year-old looking 18-year-olds.
What I love, too, is you have to think that these dads or moms are not proud of what's going on with their kids. I mean, there's not one dad out there that goes, oh, yeah, I want my kid Katie to be gangbanged, you know? It's got to be a weird Thanksgiving dinner, you know?
Well, I mean, I have to assume that most of the girls that are doing porn during the day aren't going home to their loving parents at the end of the day. They probably had a pretty shitty upbringing. Like, there's a few phases of girls in your life. There's the way I describe it is like, it's the show me your tits rule. There's like, there's girls that wouldn't show you their tits for any amount of money and I don't mean like privately. I mean like if you're in like a group of people or whatever and you're like, show me your tits, or if she's up on a stage or something, like there are girls that would never do it ever in a million years, no matter what. Even if you like threaten to hurt their family or something, they'd be like, no. Then on the other end of the spectrum, there's girls that would just love to show their tits to anybody that'll look at them. And then there's certain levels in between. There's girls that are like, well, if I'm drunk enough, then maybe. Or girls that are like, well, if you give me enough money, then maybe. And, like, that's the kind of world that we live in. Like, there's no way to nail anybody down because, like, there's so – I don't remember what the question was. I was going somewhere with that, but the pot grabbed it and ran away with it.
Well, here's what I think is happening too is girls are having these huge egos because they can now be models on Facebook or models on social media, and it's giving them a platform to not have any talent but have boobs and an ass, and they'll get 100,000 likes. So I think that's sort of helping out all of this, you know?
Yeah, but I don't think like those girls that are doing that, they were already getting attention.
True.
Like everybody's attention is just going up by like the same percentages, you know? Like if you were just like a gross nobody that never talked to anybody, but then you found Facebook, then now you're like friends with the few people that accepted your friend request that you went to high school with, and like every once in a while you get a like on your shit and you're like, oh my god, like Facebook is so great. But like if you're used to having like 10 dudes text you every day anyway and be like, hey, what are you doing later, or like send me some more pictures, or just whatever was going on a few years ago, you know, then you get on Snapchat or Twitter or whatever, and then you got 10,000 guys that like you, then it's kind of like the same level of like positive feelings about yourself increased, you know? You're like, wow, man, this Facebook, Snapchat thing is pretty great, you know? Like, I really get some great attention from this.
Well, you know what's weird, too, is all the girls from high school that were just average looking are now really hot. And then the girls that were gorgeous back then sort of look more run down, you know? It's weird how time passes, you know?
Yeah, it is weird how time passes. I don't know, like, I mean, that's like comedy, you know? That's like saying, like, a black crowd's always going to yell and scream at you. And it's like, not always, you know? Like, I mean, there's definitely, I know girls that were super hot in high school that are still super hot today. And it's like, oh my God, like, I had no idea that chick was going to maintain so well, you know?
No.
You're right. There's also girls that like that you just didn't give the time of day in high school that now you look at and you're like, wow, man, she got really, really pretty, or she lost a lot of weight, or whatever the case is.
You know what was weird about high school, too, was the fact that you wanted to fit in. It seemed like everything was important about being cool in the hallway. But then you look and then you graduate and you go, those 4 years didn't really matter, you know? It's weird how we all tried so hard to overcompensate back then, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, don't you still do that now, don't you?
You're a comedian. I'm in radio. We're trying to fit in because we're trying to be something in life. So you sort of have a point.
Like, yeah, when I get booked at a new club, or when I go to a new city or something, and I get there and there's like a few other people talking to each other, and it's like, oh God, like they already know each other, and like they already have friends here and stuff, and like you see the guy go up and he's doing like local jokes, like, oh yeah, that's like Tommy's Tavern down the street, and the whole crowd erupts, and you're like, I don't even know what Tommy's Tavern is. Like, oh no, like that's like the same high school feeling, but you know, 5 years from now, when I'll be like, oh yeah, that club down the street from Tommy's, like, yeah, that old shithole, whatever, you know, no big deal. I think that's just life, man. Like, and that's why when you're in, you know, in high school, it's such a big deal to you, and you just can't even believe that your parents are like, it's not a big deal. Like, just do your work and like focus on college. And you're like, fuck college. Like, I don't have a date for the dance. Like, my whole life is over right now.
How did you get into comedy? Like for me, I've wanted to do radio for like 12 years, so it's been a passion of mine my whole life. But for you, did you sort of slip into comedy, or was it something you've wanted to do for years?
I mean, looking back now, I guess it was part of the plan for my life or whatever. Like I used to watch comedy and stuff as a kid, and then the first time I did comedy was in the talent show in 6th grade, and then I was always a goofball, and like all that stuff. So what was the question? Like, when did I know I wanted to do comedy?
Yeah, when was the time where you're like, I'm good at this, I want to make money off of it?
Probably like maybe a month or two after I started doing open mic nights was when I was like, wow, all right, like this is fun. Like I definitely don't want to do anything other than this. Like I got to get to the next level, And like, but I had a really great open mic upbringing though. Like I've been to a lot of open mics all across the country since then, and no offense to whoever's listening and your local open mic, but it kind of sucks probably compared to the one that I was brought up in Kansas City, Missouri. Dude, we would like have sold out crowds on Monday nights because the town just loved us so much. I don't know. It was a great group. Like we look at it as like high school classes, like there was like the guys that were seniors when we started, and that was like Chris Porter and like James Johan and Justin Leon and Tim Gaither and like who else? Like DC Young and Johnny O and shit and some other guys. And then we had like my class, which was like me and like AJ Finney and like Conrad Courtney and Dustin Kaufman and Austin Jonas and Austin Williams and Brian Jonas and then there were guys that like started a few years after all of us. Like I don't know if you know any of these guys yet, like Sam Norton and.
So basically what I can tell is when you go to these open mics back in the day, you were surrounding yourself with talent. So I would assume you then learn a lot from it, right?
Correct. But then also, I mean, I look at it like high school because they were shitty to us. Like the older guys were dicks, but in like a nice way, like it was like a locker room kind of scenario. Like they would be like, get out of the way, pussy, like that kind of shit. But then like come up and be like, hey, like good tackle out there today, and you're like, oh, hey, thanks, Chad, And like it was enough to give you that like, man, like I really want to impress those guys next week because they're all going to be there, And like it was, and everybody would come back week after week, and like if somebody wasn't there, you knew that it meant that they were like out on the road working somewhere, and so you're like, oh man, like why isn't Porter here this week? And it's like, whoa, where is he? He's in Florida, man. He flew there. Like God, I can't wait to get as good as him,
Now, here's what I want to ask you. For people that would want to potentially buy your album front to back, what are some of the topics that you talk about on there?
Buy the other one. Buy Bees Can Taste of Their Feet. It's better. It's okay, here's what happened with my albums. Like, Steve Hofstetter, who's awesome in the comedy world and everything, like had I don't know what you call it, like an agent company or like a management company or something for a while. And they hooked me up with this guy that like recorded me professionally and like edited my all the sound and everything and like made an album and made it sound really good. And then on the second one, like I was like, Hofstetter's like, do you want some help making your album? And I was like, I got it. Like, I can do all this stuff. And so the second one I made myself. So you can totally tell that it's like different shows like tried to mesh together. And so you can hear like the setup of one joke like is in front of one audience, and then like the punchlines in front of it. Like, I don't like that one. If you get an album, then get the Bees one because it's decent. You can still get the other one. I'm not saying it's not funny. Just know that it's not good.
Well, you can go see Mike Baldwin this weekend at Side Splitters Comedy Club in Tampa Bay. And to get tickets, it's not hard. It's 813-960-1197. It's 813-960-1197. And they are at 12938 North Dale Mabry Highway in Tampa Bay. Well, Mike, thank you for coming on Happy Hour, man. I was really digging what I saw on your videos online, so I'm going to tell everyone right now, everybody needs to see you this weekend at Side Splitters Comedy Club.
Yeah, I'll give away some free tickets or something. Follow me on Twitter. It's just it's at Mike Baldwin.
And when I send this out via Facebook and Twitter, I will be sure to tag the fact that you'll be giving out tickets to help promote your shows.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks, dude. Thanks for letting me talk about myself.
Of course. And the next time you're in town, I would definitely love to have you on again.
Please do.
Have a good rest of the weekend.
All right, you too. Adios.
All right, peace out. And that was comedian Mike Baldwin, who can be seen this weekend at Side Splitters Comedy Club in Tampa Bay. To get tickets, it's not hard. Go to sidesplitterscomedy.com. That is sidesplitterscomedy.com. Or go and call them at 813-960-1197. It's 813-960-1197. And they are at 12938 North Dale Mabry Highway. And that is 12938 North Dale Mabry Highway in Tampa Bay. All right, this has been Happy Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, saying peace out.
Happy Hour.